Last Saturday afternoon, I finally did something I had been putting off for ages. Being someone who is usually always doing things, this was particularly tricky. I sat on the couch and I watched YouTube. But not just like whatever came up on my feed. I searched specifically for the vlogs that I used to watch back in 2019 when life just felt so simple. Sadie Eldest, Sophie DiLoretto, Anna McNulty, Olivia Dandria. I was watching videos they published like 7 years ago and it made me feel this pang of nostalgia which I hadn't felt in a while. Because I could remember when my life felt that easy, that simple, that free. And it made me wonder, can I still feel like that today? Is it just an age thing, like a growing up thing? Or is it a deliberate choice to neglect all the things that made our childhood feel so special? And if it is the latter, how can we incorporate more whimsiness into our lives? While still being the driven, determined, ambitious women that we inevitably are going to be. That is what I want to explore in today's episode. So if you're new to this podcast, hi, my name is Aria and I'm your host of the Successfully Balanced podcast. This is the podcast where we chat about all the things that you need to know if you are a highly ambitious, driven woman who wants to achieve some incredible things in her life, but you don't want to do it in a way that requires sacrifice and burnout and neglecting all the things that make life feel so worth living. Because I truly believe that you can have both. You can be both highly successful and also be calm and grounded and happy and so at peace and in love with your life. And the reason that I'm so passionate about that is because when I was 10 years old, I was that kid who could not sleep and still cannot sleep to this day because I had so many ideas for different businesses and fundraisers and different initiatives that I wanted to start, and it just consumed my mind and I could never let go of that. And as I got older, that ambition far from faded. In fact, when I was 16 years old, I ended up studying 15 hours a day and eventually found myself on my living room floor typing until I fell asleep. I turned down invites to hang out with my friends and family. I never went outside. My life was basically in lockdown in pursuit of success. And it took me until that night when I found myself tapping on my living room floor until I fell asleep that I realized that I didn't want to keep living like that. I knew that success was still important to me, but I never ever again wanted it to cost my health and sanity ever again. And I knew that there had to be a way to become both highly successful and also happy, and that was when the idea of Successfully Balanced was born. So if you're new, welcome again. I am so grateful that you're here, and if you enjoy this episode, it would mean the absolute world to me if you could give this show a rating on Spotify. We currently have a 5-star streak, which little perfectionist part of me is so happy about, so if we can keep that going, that would be so cool. But otherwise, if you can rate it on Spotify or if you're listening on YouTube, then like and subscribe, and absolutely leave a comment down below about something that you have been particularly enjoying about this episode. Otherwise, oh my goodness, guys, the comment section, especially on Spotify, if you're listening on Spotify, the comment section has been the most beautiful place. Like, every time I open Spotify for creators, I am met with like the most beautiful comments from you guys. Like, thank you so much. It genuinely means the world. Like, I really want to build this space to be sort of a community where everyone just feels happy and welcomed and safe. So if you're going to comment, make sure it's something positive. Make sure that you're going to uplift and encourage other people, because I am so there for that. And so is my cat. If you're watching on video, you can see him in the background. His name is Walter, and he is here as well to help you feel more happy in your life. Anyway, so from that moment when I decided that I wanted to find a way to become both highly successful and also be happy, I am now sitting here today feeling more confident than ever that I have sort of cracked the code for how to do that. No, my life is not perfect, but it is a million times better than it was 4 years ago. In fact, I've used this exact philosophy to grow over 100,000 followers across platforms, launch 2 businesses, and become an award-winning founder, and so many other things, but also at the same time getting usually 7 hours or more of sleep every night, having a boyfriend, catching up with my friends every week, traveling multiple times every year, and going to the gym every morning, and just in general just feeling so happy and peaceful and content. So today I wanted to break down the connection between ambition and girlhood and sort of show you that the two characteristics are actually more intertwined and more complementary to each other than you may think. They don't have to be disparate, and in fact they can actually enhance one another. So let's get into it. So the first part of this episode is that to be creative is to be feminine. Throughout childhood, we often attend kindergarten. This is the place where your biggest worries for the day are what colour you're going to choose to paint with, or if you can eat food faster than your best friend. You'll often return home with a painting to which your parents will say is absolutely beautiful. But then somewhere along the process of our lives, we just stop doing that. I'm just here to say hi. We start focusing on getting better grades, getting a higher paying job, writing a business pitch that makes our idea sound profitable. Essentially, we replace creativity with numbers and metrics, which we constantly need to hit and then exceed. Our society revolves around that very idea, and this is, funnily enough, something that suits masculine traits very well. In short, without this becoming a masterclass on masculine versus feminine energy, masculine is the doing, whereas feminine is the being. So for example, with masculine energy, you see more assertiveness and leadership, so taking charge, providing clear direction, and making firm decisions. Also competitiveness and logic, so focusing on objective problem solving, achieving goals, and structured planning. And then, of course, protection and action, so projecting outward energy to safeguard others and tackle physical challenges. All of these characteristics are extremely important, and especially us as women, we do need that balance of masculine energy in our lives. We can't really succeed without it. However, the feminine energy, on the other hand, is what we tend to forget about, but this episode is going to be talking a lot about how feminine energy can actually enhance and even accelerate our own growth and success. Because feminine energy is really that nurturing and that empathy, so fostering deep personal connections, showing warmth and supporting others. It's collaboration and intuition, relying on emotional intelligence, listening, and cooperating within groups. And then, of course, it is also receptivity and flow, so projecting inward energy centered on being, feeling, and being patient and being adaptable. So without making this an argument about sexism, because that is not the case in terms of energy, both men and women have a balance of masculine and feminine energy. Generally, men tend to have more masculine energy and women tend to be more dominated by feminine energy, but it's not difficult to see how our world is in general structured to reward traits of masculinity. So doctors, lawyers, and engineers are considered respectable in their careers. These are also the careers that tend to require the most analytical black and white thinking. On the other hand, dancers, artists, and florists, and people like that tend to be tossed aside with little regard and considered to be not as prestigious or highly esteemed careers. These are also the careers that tend to require the most creativity and expression. The way that society views it is that if you want to become a researcher or an engineer, then you are very ambitious and very respected. Whereas if you want to do something remotely creative, you are more likely to be frowned upon. We often internalize these opinions and apply them to our own situations. And so we tend to downplay or forget entirely the beauty and necessity of femininity and creativity. We neglect to appreciate that they can and should coexist. The CEO, who is also an empath, fosters significantly better collaborations and relationships. The dancer, who is also analytical and can think rationally, can improve their skill and their technique much faster. The chef, who is also meticulously organized, will be able to plate impeccable dishes consistently during a busy dinner. The surgeon, who is exceptionally compassionate, will keep patients calmer before surgery and lower their pre-op stress. The trial lawyer, who is also a really good listener, will be able to spot the flaws in an opposition's case by catching subtle shifts in tone. The bottom line is that the feminine, creative, empathetic side of us should not be tucked away in order to perform better. On almost every account, combining our ambition with our natural ability to be loving and to be nurturing produces greater levels of success. And as we will explore now, will also have less of a toll on our mental health and physical well-being. So rather than hiding your natural urge to be girly and feminine, which I assume you have considering you're watching this video, you'll find that you are better off actually incorporating it into your work, which is something that we'll look at in the later half of this episode. So that leads us into part 2 of this episode, which is the origin matters. Likely the most impactful determinant of your success will be the origin, or in Simon Sinek's words, your why. But rather than naming your why in terms of an objective, I want to instead think about it as more of the emotional origin of our drive and ambition. So there are 2 general origins that I want to discuss, and these are kind of named differently depending on where you hear about them, but for the sake of this episode, I want to call it either the stress origin or the love origin. So the stress origin could also be called extrinsic motivation or a fear-based drive. So that could sound like, I have to do this or I'm a failure, I need to impress other people, I have to make a lot of money, I need to be seen as successful. Notice the words need and have are the most prevalent here. Whereas in a love origin, you have intrinsic motivation or a love-based drive. And that can sound like, I love what I do, I would still be doing this if nobody was watching. I can't wait to see the results, but I am just so in love with doing this. When we do things from a stress origin, we tend to do it from more of a masculine energy. Things are black and white. You are either successful or you are not. Every loss feels like a threat. Your blinkers are on, you are laser focused on the end result. Whereas when we do things from a love origin, we tend to operate from predominantly feminine energy. You keep your mind open, you explore different options, you experiment and try new things. You are more adaptable. Just quickly, my phone is going to go flat soon, so I'm going to be reading more off the script. So if you see me looking down, sorry, I just want to get this done in one take so that I don't have to delay the podcast going up for you guys. So back to it. Anyways, every setback is a chance to try something new. You express your creativity without hesitation. You are in love with the process. The downstream effects of each origin are well documented. People with primarily extrinsic motivation or a stress origin tend to achieve key milestones faster in the short term, but also burn out much faster and ultimately stall their potential. People with primarily intrinsic motivation or a love origin, on the other hand, tend to take longer to achieve success initially, but in the long run tend to be more well-rounded and balanced across more areas of life, including much better health and well-being. Not only that, but when you operate from a place of love, you aren't cut down by criticism in the same way that someone who is placing their entire self-worth on one outcome would. You treat criticism as a gift, you apply it, and hence you go further. You are also naturally and imperatively more creative. You see things in colors, not black and white. You see things in 3D, not 2D. You see things from multiple perspectives, not just the most straightforward one. And when that artistic view of the world is applied to a pursuit, you open yourself up to a wider range of opportunities, having a higher likelihood of finding one that works. So at this stage, you're probably wondering okay, cool, but how can I actually become more feminine, more girly, more creative in order to achieve such drastically substantial results? This leads us to part 3. To be feminine is to be present. Perhaps the reason that childhood felt more magical was not because we were younger, but because we were present. I heard this quote somewhere a little while ago, and it really changed my perspective on things. Rather than grieving a past life I never knew was ending, I chose to make the decision that it would never end. I could continue that blissful peace by choice. Yes, I have adult responsibilities. I have taxes to pay. I have superannuation to contribute, bills to transfer, but none of that has to stop you from the simple, beautiful act of being present. Yes, of course, it can be harder to feel that way when you have real pressing stresses in your life, but we often tend to leave ourselves in such a heightened state of awareness that we don't realize that actually we can soften a little. We can relax our shoulders, we can breathe deeper, we can stop and smell the roses. To be feminine is to be present. Presence is a hard thing to master in this day and age when there is just so much calling our attention. If you've never gotten into nervous system regulation, that might just be one of the most transformative things you do. And if you want my guidance on how to actually do this, I actually have a specific module inside Elevate specifically dedicated towards nervous system regulation. And the reason I emphasize this so much is because when you have a regulated nervous system, not only can you be more present and feminine, but you essentially release all the internal barriers that are keeping you stuck exactly where you are, and it allows you to expand past your current level of success to achieve even more. I actually got the most beautiful voice memo the other day from one of the girls in Elevate, who is also one of my private lessons, and I want to play it because it literally just made my day.
Whether I've been talking to my twin sister or my partner or whatever, I've been really ranting and raving about how much working with you has changed my life in the past 4 or 5 weeks. I can't remember how long it's been now, but just the accountability. I've done more the past 4 or 5 weeks working with you than I have in a really long time, I think, in my business, at a quicker pace, because I've got somebody who's checking in with me and cares. I had that $4,000 launch from a 25-pound product. I have now gone to exercise classes, got into Pilates, tried a new type of exercise class, and I've been going to it consistently for 2 weeks now. And putting in time to focus on myself when I'm spending my entire day focusing on helping other people. I launched a new product. I launched a podcast and published my first YouTube video, which I've been intending to do for literally almost a year. And now I've finally done it
So yeah, that is the kind of girls that we have in Elevate. The level of success that they get it genuinely blows my mind. I created this platform to help women succeed, and it has just exceeded my expectations in terms of I'm just so proud of them. And these kind of messages really just remind me why I do what I do. And if you're an ambitious woman and you want to be able to create success like that, then Elevate is the room for you. I will actually put in the link in the description of this episode. There is a masterclass now. Depending on when you're watching this video, it may or may not be called this, but if you click the link in the description and you check out the 5x masterclass, that is completely free, and it's literally the method that I teach like and everywhere about how to basically 5 times the areas of your life. So whether that's your brand, your business, your body, your bank account, any of those goals that you have, you want to level them up. That is a masterclass for you. So it's for completely free, and I would love to help you in there. And yeah, but anyways, aside from that, let's get back to the episode. There is another very fun and girly way to incorporate femininity into your work, and that is through romanticization. And that leads us into the 4th and final part of this episode, which is to romanticize your work. As I write this article, which is the script for this podcast, and if you want to read it properly, in the link in the description, I have my Substack. So if you want to read my newsletter, you get free value from me every single week. But yeah, as I write this article, this podcast script, I'm sitting in a soft, comfy chair next to the window in my living room. My mother asleep on the couch, fireplace on, tea brewed, sunlight warming up my shoulders. I am so blissfully content. This doesn't even feel like work, it just feels like a beautiful moment. I don't think I've really worked, so to speak, in the past few weeks. Every day I am excited to sit down and coach my clients, to fill out audit trackers, to write scripts. I have chosen to see it as fun, and I have deliberately made it more so. Your perspective matters more than any pink ribbon you could tie around anything. Are you filing taxes, or are you sorting through a cute pile of papers on your bedroom floor like Rory Gilmore in a 2000s TV show? Are you writing a script, or are you pretending you're a French poet in the 1700s crafting her next masterpiece? Are you driving to your business meeting, or are you a young, bright girl on a journey to achieve her biggest mission and make the world a better place? Both are true, you just get to choose which one you want to focus on. Of course, there are physical things you can do to enhance that. You can buy a vintage pencil cup with pink roses painted on the side. You can get a lavender mug and brew some chamomile tea. You can do your hair up nicely before your calls. You can wear a comfy floral dress to clean around the house. These things often take us mere minutes to do, but they make the entire experience more enjoyable. At the end of the day, you don't have to sacrifice your femininity and your girlhood in the pursuit of success. Both can and should coexist, and with very few fairly simple choices, you can make that happen. I really hope you love listening to this episode. I do apologize, I sort of rushed the second half because I'm scared that my phone is going to go flat or I'm going to run out of storage or something. But I have certainly loved writing it and really compiling all my thoughts and exploring this in a really interesting and intricate way. I hope that I have inspired you to go about your day with more grace and beauty, because at the end of the day, that is not only going to make you more successful, but also bring an unfathomable amount of joy into your life. So I will see you next time, and if you enjoyed this episode, please give it a like and subscribe, and rate this if you're on Spotify. It takes 10 seconds and would mean the world, and we can help even more people achieve their goals. But yeah, until next week, I will see you then. Bye bye.